Hello, everybody. I'm Anthony Rockers of Yellow Submarine, and today is a final video of this year. And I am going to describe in words what do I think about the year 2020 in words: chaos, depressed, selfish, shame. All of those words perfectly, in my opinion, I think perfectly fits of what this year has been because mostly is depressed means like not only is because it's like just one certain subject matter, but more it's more than what you think. And I'm going to list off of my least favorites, or I mean not least favorites, but my the least controversial to the most controversial topics, or topics by topics. So we're gonna start off with the first one, which is the celebrities that's been going on. Ever since the early of the year, Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, that even though I'm not the biggest fan of basketball, I mean, granted, back in the day, or well, a couple of years ago, I used to be a fan of basketball. I played basketball, and I was in high school at the time, and I played basketball, and with some people out there who want to play basketball, I joined in and I played with them. I had fun, and I watched basketball games with my dad at the time. And now we're branch off to start watching NFL football, and and Miami Dolphins are insane. That's one thing I will give positive that this year has been, that Miami Dolphins has been doing really good. We haven't seen them do so well since what I can remember. It's insane. They did better than 4 years ago. I will tell you that. But so the celebrities' deaths that's been going on and still is this year we've lost many lives of not just like people who die from the pandemic, but mostly the celebrities that die from different causes of the sickness, rather than just of course virus. First, like the one that struck me the most and crushed my heart the most was Regis Philbin and Alex Trebek and Chadwick Boseman. If you don't know you're probably familiar with his name, of course. He's the guy who played T'Challa slash Black Panther. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the actor. And yes, this is gonna be a controversial when I'm gonna say this, but as much as I have tons of respect of what he did to the MCU, even though I will say Black Panther movie, I wasn't too interested. Even though I will say that I'm definitely going to get a comic book. I would love to read what was the story about. I'm very curious. I'm very interested to read it. But the movie itself is okay. I didn't really have too much to watch, so I mean, for what I watched, it was okay. I mean, I didn't have enough time to because I was busy at the time. I will say Chadwick Boseman at the time where he was filming Black Panther, the first one, he did look like he was very unhealthy. Especially you could tell by how skinny he was too. And that one was the most controversial. And besides Kobe Bryant, he's a famous basketball player. Even though I don't know fully about him, of course I'm familiar with his name and I've seen him before. I've seen him many times, and it was crazy. And the one that struck me the most, I will say, is Regis Philbin and Alex Trebek. You're most likely should be familiar with these people. Regis Philbin is the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and Alex Trebek is also the host of a game show called Jeopardy, and he is the longest running host. I would not say in history, but he is one of the longest running hosts of game show histories, I will say. But it's insane. Regis Philbin and Alex Trebek passed away that year, and it's sad because Alex Trebek was battling the pancreatic cancer for several years, and this suddenly happens. It's so sad. And Regis Philbin, he passed away from a sickness too. And I've talked about it on my social media. If you're not familiar with it, like on my social media, yes, it's in the description, Facebook, Instagram. I've talked about the cause of deaths, and I told you guys that it's a very sad year for a game show who are the hugest fan of game shows. It's a sad year because we've lost two major hosts that not only struck everybody's lives, but even my because it affected. Because I remember watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on TV at the time when Regis Philbin was the host, and I actually definitely remember Alex Trebek from the Jeopardy, and I definitely remember seeing him on TV, and I've seen the show, and both of the shows are fun. Jeopardy and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire are arguably one of my favorite game shows. Besides like other shows with Wheel of Fortune and Press Your Luck, I will say Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Jeopardy are definitely are my top favorites. I will say, and it's just crushed my heart to know that they passed away. Even though they were really old. Regis Philbin was actually older than Alex Trebek. Alex Trebek was like 80, and Regis Philbin was a little bit older than Alex Trebek. It's insane, but it's crazy. And Alex Trebek, by the way, he was still on the schedule on the contract to host the show for a couple of years later to be off the show due to his age. And I heard that they hired a contestant who won a lot of money that's going to be the host. It's a brilliant idea, I will say. And it's just insane that this year has been a loss. Not just like celebrities, but yes. The next topic I'm going to be, well, and also, by the way, this year has been a pretty sad year for my families. Not just like because they had to stay home, because this year has been was messed up. Because I'm going to talk about this short briefly. That I'm going to talk about this short briefly. That my cousin, I'm not going to name drop, but my cousin, who was my older brother's age at the time, she passed away at a really young age too. It was all of a sudden, and I don't know what were they doing at the time. And keep this in mind, this was a couple of weeks. Or actually, this was a couple weeks ago. That was a couple days before Christmas, and that one was just struck me the most. That's what crushed my heart, along with Regis Philbin and Alex Trebek, because I grew up with them more, and I'm hurt. Like my cousin died, or she passed away at such a young age at my older brother's age. It's so sad too. It was all of a sudden too, because me and my older brother hang out with her all the time. We were kids too. And something like this happens, you don't know what to do in the future, since the person that you come so close to, especially your family relatives, it's just so sad that something like that is so sad, because we didn't know if this was going to happen. And keep this in mind, my cousin didn't die from the virus. She died because she basically drive to like in a track to get some exercise, and suddenly there was a car. Just it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe the words of how so tragedy was. And like the car just suddenly, when she was jogging, suddenly the car just bam her. It's like just it's so hard to describe. It's just so sad. It's so like all of a sudden. Like I always say, sometimes life suddenly happens. Suddenly you don't know what's going to happen the next day. You don't know anything. Like it just, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen the next day or next week, next month, next year. You don't know what's going to happen. All of a sudden it's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know it. It's just, that's what struck me the most, because my older brother hang out with her all the time when we were kids. We were in elementary school at the time too. And keep this in mind, I was younger than my older brother, so I didn't really fully hang out with her because I was younger. And even though I was shy back in the day, I will say, because I mean, we all as human beings when we were kids, we were shy to talk to people. Even though some people outcome it when they were at that age too, but I was one of those kids who were shy to talk to some people out there. And seeing her go, it's just so sad. That one struck me the most, because me and my older brother, especially my other cousins, hanged out with her all the time. Especially my parents, my father, my cousin. That's what struck my dad the most, because she always comes to my dad to ask questions about anything, about what's going on, and he was just, it's like losing a sibling. It was like losing a kid. Like it was like losing a sibling of yours. It's that sad. And she was my cousin too. And seeing her go is just so unexpected. It was sad. That's why I haven't made videos lately. That's why I didn't want to talk so much about her, because it will break my heart again by talking about her, because it broke my heart big time. And the deaths that's been going on with like famous people, especially my cousin, is just so sad. This is just a depressing year for me. I remember, I think if you subscribe to my channel a while ago, like a couple of years ago, and you've heard me say like 4 years ago was the worst year ever, 2016. Well, I was wrong. This year to 2020 is by far, in my opinion, the worst year I've ever experienced, because not only is it because of the celebrity deaths, but I'm going to bring up the next topic that I'm going to bring up, the second most controversial. Second one is the virus. So I think every human being in the planet should know about this, because the virus is still going on to this day. Everybody should know this, because it's just so sad that, especially when you're like Americans, it's so like insulting to, especially to that country too, because all of the people in the United States have the highest deaths, highest cases, and also I would also argue that, even though I would not put recovered on there because it's not really that. I mean, I would not say it counts, but it does count, because I mean they do recover from it, but we have the highest ones out of all the states, all the countries: Brazil, Mexico, Canada, all that countries, and even Australia. Australia are just so secure of all of the people there that they're going to open up and start. I've heard on the news that Australia, they're starting to play their shows again, and again, it's just wow. Australia knows how to handle this, besides the United States are. It's crazy. The pandemic, the virus, or I'm gonna say this, the coronavirus, is that where it affected so many people. It even affected not only me, but it affected everybody. I mean, every human being that's living today, because it affected how we go out places. It affected who we really are. Are we either a caring and a cautious people, or are we just selfish brats who can't even protect ourselves? The coronavirus basically instructs us to who we really are, as what do we do with our lives too, because it changed how we go out to places. It changed how we used to hang out with our families. It changed everything about it, not just the country alone, everything in the world that's going on with the planet, and it's insane. And it's sadly enough that even when the vaccines are coming soon, and that was where hopefully it's going to slow down. But I am not going to say the vaccine are going to it's going to end the virus one day. It's still going to keep going, but hopefully it works. Even though I heard most of recently that it's going to cause side effects, but hopefully it can. If everybody is very knowledgeable and actually can adapt about this particular cure, that then everything would be back to normal. And not only that, if people literally, if everybody wore a mask, and yes, mask offs to you NFL teams who is watching this. Yes, this is Miami Dolphins. Screw you guys. 1966, and yeah, like I said earlier about the Miami Dolphins, they are a crazy team. I hope that's awesome that they've made it to the playoffs. It's insane. Even though it's still, when they played against the Raiders, it was so insane and shocking. In my life so far, what I remember, that was like the craziest game I've ever seen from the Dolphins. They won against the Raiders by 3 points because, spoiler alert, 10 seconds, they score a field goal because of that flag from the referee, said the face mask, because the Raiders grabbed the mask of Fitzpatrick, and the game was over after that too. It was insane. If everybody please wear a mask, and not only that, sanitize your hands, wash your hands a lot more often than just typical than what you do in your everyday lives. What I do is basically buy the alcohol bottle of it and pour it all over on my hands when I go somewhere, or it touch the groceries and the bags. That's what I would do every time. And if everybody just it's not that hard to wear a mask. If you can wear a mask, that can actually help save all the lives. That's going to basically slow the whole entire, well, not basically, but it's going to help save the lives of everybody, not just the country, but everybody. Because if you can actually wear a mask and actually just sanitize your hands, then everything you're doing a great job. You're actually protecting not only yourself, you're protecting every other people outside because you're showing that your support. You want it to end. You're not showing it because for attention, because that's what a lot of people are doing these days. You're doing it just to protect people, and I'm glad if you're doing these rules. I am proud of you. Hopefully you keep going as long as you don't turn around on it because it's very important to do so. And I don't know. It's everybody. Everybody else is different. I understand. Yeah, I definitely agree that everybody's different, but just I ask you guys, just please wear a mask. It's simple. It's not. If you're gonna say like, oh, just because of the law, all that stuff, then what does that have to do with the mask? First of all, mask is not just because of the law. It's for protecting other people's health, because you're preventing. When you wear masks, you're preventing your like the virus from yourself, like your respiratory system, to enter to another person's respiratory system that can enter them and can instantly kill them. I don't care if you're going to say, oh, but it's going to recover them. Well, you technically are not even trying to protect others from preventing others to get it. And it's not hard. Just wear a mask and desanitize yourself. What I do is wear 2 masks. I wear this, of course, and I also wear the normal shield, or not the normal shield, but the normal mask that has like, of course, the white and blue mask that I wear. I wear the white and blue mask first, and I wear this second. And I wear a double mask, and it works very well than just wearing one mask. If it has double layer, then I definitely, because my mom wears double layer with a mask that when she goes to work, because it actually helps more too. A lot. It helps just like the wearing 2 masks, because this was just like a 1 layer mask, and this whole entire coronavirus is just so insane. And if everybody was intelligent and can actually adapt to follow the rules, and not only that, if they can actually try, and if you don't want to go to places, just stay home, stay quarantined. You don't have to go to places, even if it's for emergency. Just stay home. Even if you want to do like a pickup from grocery stores, only do it in your vehicles. Don't do it in the stores, because especially you got to look at what's going on with the pandemic, because the states are having the worst times, like New York, California, Texas, Florida, all of those states, especially Illinois, and like Pennsylvania. All that states are doing bad, even though California's in lockdown because they do have a great senator. But the other states are not in lockdowns because they choose the wrong senators to. I mean, not say choose the wrong, but they just choose the senators because they vote for their own senators and they think this is fine. And we're not even going into a lockdown because of it. And the next topic I am going to talk about is the most controversial of all, in my opinion, would be the election of 2020. And keep this in mind, this was my first year of voting for the president. And full disclosure, I don't like Donald Trump at all, because especially when 2015, when he announced that he was going to run for president, I thought my parents thought it was a complete joke. And when I was young, I didn't know fully about this guy, but I looked at the speech at the time, and I thought it was a joke because of the way he speaks too. And you got to keep this in mind. This guy did not do anything political. Like literally, he wasn't becoming a president just because he knows all the terms and amendments and all of the political terms and all this stuff. He doesn't know nothing about that. All he does is just run for president just to get rich, and especially he ran for president because he has a big mouth and they let him. That's it. And he was a celebrity too, because he was mostly well known for the show that he made was The Apprentice, and everybody should know that show. I mean, you don't have to know the show, but you have to. When you look at Donald Trump, you got to look at the show that he made, and you got to look at how he become president. Does The Apprentice have to stack up to running the president? No, that was just a show. That was just a show that he made for himself. And if 2016, the reason why he won 4 years ago was because he was a celebrity. And you got to keep this in mind. If he wasn't a celebrity against Hillary Clinton at the time, would Donald Trump even won if he was not a celebrity? I don't even think he would have won from that celebrity. Hillary Clinton, I think she would have won because the reason why he won was because he was a celebrity. Everybody knows him from that TV show, The Princess, even though many people are familiar with him before too. But you gotta keep this in mind. He was a celebrity. Nobody knows that too, and that's sad because, especially, I know fully about how they become president because I look at the history of how do they become president. How do they know all these things? But it's just insane. And this year with the election is that it's definitely, in my opinion, one of the most important elections to ever come in American history because we had Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and Joe Biden technically, I don't know why. Sorry, I've been acting like really weird lately because I'm filming at midnight. So, and yes, this is before New Year's Eve. So that I'm filming right now, and Joe Biden, you already know what I voted for this year, so I'm not gonna tell you. I mean, well, you know what? Technically, I already told you. I'm gonna tell you because the election's already over. Get over it. So this year, this was my first year of voting, and this year was my first year of voting, and yes, I am a Democrat of the state of. I am a Democrat from the state of Florida, and I am proud of who I am because Democrats are actually trying their hardest. Even though they do follow some certain things, they do have a lot of downsides of how they follow. Not only do they follow the rules, but how they do them. But the Democrats, I think they're handling the whole entire situation better than the Republicans are because Republicans are not really knowing what's going on. They think like, oh, everything's okay, everything's good, everything's going to get better. They don't know that because they don't know what it's like. But it's just insane. This election, it was so by far the craziest we've ever seen, and this one, and especially the delays of the voting was just like at 2000 where W. Bush and Al Gore Jr. was running for president. Al Gore Jr. won the popular vote, but W. Bush won. And keep this in mind, I was here when that happened. I was a kid at the time. I was with my older brother. And keep this in mind, I didn't have a daughter or my little son with me at the time too. I was only with my older brother and just my parents alone and with my family members. That's it. And it was just insane. That's how anything delay like that for like the election polls or election votes. I'm so glad a lot of people voted this year. I'm so glad because 4 years ago a lot of people didn't vote. That's what caused the election to go that much downhill too. Especially this year is my first year of voting too, and it helped too because I have a voice of talking to certain subject matter. It's just insane. This year, it's just. I hope next year. Please do not give your hopes up about next year, saying like, oh, it's gonna be a better year. It's gonna be a way better year. You had to wait and figure it out if it is. You don't know what's going to happen next year. It could have been a little bit worse, or it could have been a little better. But don't just give your hopes up too far because then like literally a gun will shoot you in the head for you thinking of it too. And it's just insane. This whole entire like situation that's going on this year was just too much to handle. It's too much insane, chaotic, especially with certain subject matter with the Black Lives Movement. It was just like Black Lives Matter movements. It's like everything about it is just insane. Like we're basically back in the day we were we were like a couple years ago we were trying to push forward, and now we're basically pushing backwards of this whole entire situation that's going on. This is as deadly. I can't complain because like if any of you guys and girls are going to complain, or I mean not complain, but if you're trying to like say like, because I will say that like especially from the virus that's still going on still. Keep this in mind, it's still going because a lot of people don't know that. That's why you're still seeing the deaths increasing, you're still seeing the cases increasing because they do not give a crap about it. And nothing will never top off the Spanish flu from the 1918, where I believe I got it right. The Spanish flu was where it killed so many people, far far too much than of course the current coronavirus, and nothing, especially the virus, nothing, because when you're gonna talk about the September like the 9/11 when it happened in the September 11, 2001, nothing, because you gotta keep this in mind. When the 9/11 happened, it happened in one state. It was a terrorist attack that crashed the building, and that was where like nobody knew this was gonna happen. It was one incident, one attack that happened in one state affected the whole entire country. Not only that, it affected the whole entire world of what happened too at the time. I was here too when it happened too. I was a year older when it happened too. Keep that in mind. I was there at the time when it happened. My parents listened to on the news. I remember like there were so many newspapers. I remember there was so many news and the memorial. And next year is gonna be 20 years since it happened. It's insane too. It's insane. Time flies fast too. And no, I will say all of the victims that were injured from the 9/11 and died from it is never going to top the current coronavirus. Coronavirus is way higher than the 9/11 because 9/11 was, even though it did kill many people, and it left them injured a lot in one day too, and the next day also. And the coronavirus kills a lot more people than any back then. But I will say the Spanish flu is what killed a lot of people, and at that era too, it killed so many people from that flu, that Spanish flu, and it's insane. Because here's the thing, here's the difference because of how people think about like because the 9/11 nobody knew this was gonna happen, but the coronavirus they know it's going on, but they're just not helping. They're just not putting it to an end. So it's basically to like we don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what should we do to protect ourselves. To shall we just think like this is fake or this is real? This is basically what is the evolution of what we think of ourselves. It's sad. And this year has been just a complete mess. I'm just hopefully next year gets a little better. I hope, because this year was a complete mess. Not only was it because of the whole world that was affected by the virus, the election, but even myself as my like a family member of mine. Like I lost a close cousin that I hang out with all the time because she was like a sister to me. She was like a sibling of mine. Even though she was like cousin of mine, but it was like losing a sister. It's that sad too. But this year was just a true nightmare. Like it was a nightmare of the year. Truly a nightmare. I will say the positive things. I will jump to the positive things about myself, because if you guys and girls don't know, if you guys and girls don't know, if you subscribe to my channel or not, that you do. If you remember that. Sorry if I haven't talked too much about the things I do like enjoy. Like if you subscribe to my channel, I play video games. I mean, the one thing that I did this year that I think was very important to myself is not just because of the certain subject matters, but myself, is that I bought many, because I've shown you guys and girls about the classical music and why I enjoyed them, and why certain musicians that I really enjoyed, and certain songs that I really fully enjoyed, and what I think about them. Well, this year was the introduction, or actually opened the doors perception of my listening to classical music. So, excuse me, of what I think is, well, not what it is. Oh, excuse me. Sorry for burping so much. I've just, I don't know. It's sometimes when you talk about something, you accidentally burp, or you burp basically for random reasons. Well, I mean, not basically, randomly, but anyway, back to the classical musics. When I got into classical music, I got into so many, like, how I listen to music too, and that's why I think it's important to get into classical music. Sure, it's instrumental. Sure, it's going to speak different language in some songs, but you have to not only admire it, but you have to fully acknowledge the production, especially at the time that they've made their own style of the eras, Baroque, classical, and like many era, and modernist, especially the Romantic era. That's mostly the most well-known one, the most well-known era. I mean, that's what I think. It's the most well-known era, in my opinion, the Romantic era. Even though there's several era, especially the medieval era, far before the Boro era too. And yeah, ever since I got into classical music this year, the early this year, I believe it was in February this year. That was where I got into classical music. That was where I've gotten to Grieg, as also known as Edvard Grieg, who did the Morning Mood and the Hall of the Mountain King hit songs, and also the piano crescendo. If you're not familiar with it, it's a really great crescendo at the piano, especially Edvard Grieg. And yeah, ever since I got that album from the Panorama, that's where I started to instantly fall in love with classical music, and it changed the way how I listen to music too. It changed the way not only how I listen to certain like just music, but just especially how they wrote music too. And I like, how do you come up with this stuff too? Especially even though maybe people would say, oh, it's because I think some people would consider like at the time they would say it was pop because they would think that this was popular music back in the day, but you had to acknowledge, especially you look at the writing for the musicians. And ever since I got into classical music this year, it opened the doors of perception of how I not only do I like how I write music or how I know how to write music, but how I listen to it. Also, how I listen to it correctly, or what I think I listen to it correctly. And even if I talk trash and criticism to certain musicians, that's just having opinion. I would not be throwing criticism because I hate them. I'm just having an opinion of how I listen to music and how I may found some stuff interesting or how I may not find it interesting or how I find it not for me but for others, yes. And this year was a great year for how I opened the doors of classical music and Christmas Day. Yeah, if you're gonna ask me, did I had a great Christmas Day? Of course I don't want to say of course because it was a little sarcastic, but I had a great Christmas on day, and I did had I think I don't think I told you guys and girls. I mean, you should know, like on social media. Well, you know what? My social media is in the description. You should follow me there. That I on Christmas Day I had the Pink Floyd's The Wall record. I really love Pink Floyd. I mean, they're not my favorites, not my number one favorite band, but they're one of my favorite bands from not only coming out from the psychedelia era, but they're definitely one of my favorite bands from progressive rock. I really love them as a band too. Even though, yeah, you can talk about like, oh, their musics are okay because they're progressive rock. Well, especially people will consider Pink Floyd as the first progressive rock. I'm actually surprised they're not looking at the Beatles as the first progressive rock because the Beatles, I think, in my opinion, where it's like has the sound of progressive rock more than Pink Floyd. You can say like, I don't know, because I think in my opinion, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is where it had more of the progressive rock more than Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd is easy to call them progressive rock, but I'm surprised a lot of people didn't look at the Beatles. I'm surprised, even though myself, I was thinking ever since I listened to the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, it's changed up on my list. It's my second favorite record from the Beatles. Especially looking at the production, it's definitely one of the best productions there was at the time in the 60s, psychedelia. And it's insane. Ever since I got into classical music, that's how I opened that's how I have fully knowledge about music and how it was back in the day compared to now, especially how we fully digest and just consume what we hear on the radio today. That certain people find it good, some people don't. Some people don't find it interesting or find it entertaining. While I will go on a limb and say that listening to music, classical music, if the Beatles, Pink Floyd that I mentioned earlier, is far worth listening to than what we listen to on today because they actually are more musical as not only musicians but bands because they actually made it like I don't know, it's just listen to those like classical music because if you say classical music you're gonna easily say Beethoven, Mozart, or Bach, and I suggest you to listen to other classical music composers like Tchaikovsky who did the Nutcracker, like Antonio Vivaldi who did the Four Seasons. Like classical music opened the doors to how I listen to music, instrumental too, by the way. And it's just insane. Classical music's got me into it, and starting to get fully knowledge about how I listen to music. Because without it, I don't know what it would have been. Especially this year was actually, but fun fact, I haven't talked about it on my channel, but I ever since I got into Dream Theater and I also got into Opeth, I rarely even talk about Opeth at all. Even though yesterday I got the Black Water Park album, and a couple of weeks ago I had the Damnation album. I love that album. Holy crap! It's actually one of my favorite albums from Opeth. Even though it's more of the soft side of Opeth, but you had to listen to the music. It's just, especially the production, is fantastic, and that album alone is definitely a must listen to. Even though, because the Black Water Park is very abrasive, but if you listen to the Bleak song, just listen to it entirely, not just like the beginning, but like entirely, you're going to instantly start to love this band. You're like, okay, this is great stuff. But I will warn you that if that first track, Deliberate Friendly, that was where it's a little too abrasive. You're not going to like it, even though it's actually an awesome track. But if you listen to the entire album, it actually does have a little bit, it still has like the dark side, but it does have some bright stuff in a dark way, if that makes sense. But yeah, this year was, in my opinion, like a decent year for how I open my how I turn on my like knowledge brain of how I listen to music too. It's insane. It's not too insane, but you know what I'm talking about. But I don't know. And fun fact, back to what I talked about Regis Philbin. Regis Philbin. Yesterday I got I got Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the second edition on the PlayStation 1. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I miss Regis Philbin. He's such a great host. Darn. Why does 2020 has to take away my favorite one, the loved ones? It's just so, not only is it unexpected, but they've been battling the sickness ever since too. So all I can like, and by the way, just a couple hours ago, me and my mom, my dad, we played Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We're not the smartest people on there, so do not judge us, all right? And don't even try to judge me either, because we're not the smartest people on there either. And we actually learned new stuff by playing the game on the PlayStation 1. Make fun of the graphics, but you have to acknowledge that this is the game show based off of the game show. But anyway, this is just a quick video, a wrap up of 2020, and hopefully next year gets a little better. Hopefully, I'm not gonna get my hopes up too much, because don't give your hopes up too much, because it will later on stab you in the back for that. So hopefully next year gets better. I don't know. If you guys enjoyed my thoughts, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about 2020? Let me know what your thoughts about this year in the comments. If you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, share this video with your friends and family, tap the bell for notifications to go directly to that video. And my social media, Facebook and Instagram, are in the description, and I will see you in the next video. Change the world, and please wear a mask, please. It's not that hard. Because when you wear a mask, it helps save the lives. Because the deaths are increasing huge, because nobody's doing anything about it to protect it from it. And not only that, I forgot to mention, especially employees, especially every workers out there are getting unemployed, and they're all are just staying quarantined because of how dangerous it is. The stores are shutting down, especially being fined with the bankruptcy, and it's just insane. People are not doing anything about it. It's so sad, but my social media are in the description, Instagram and Facebook. Please change the world by wearing the mask, please. It helps. So please wear a mask, and peace and love, hopefully. And I will see you in the next video. I forgot exactly what I was going to say. And also, keep rocking out. Yeah.